Welcome everybody to our BNI Talks webinar. My name is Steve Tenuza, your host, and today I've got Liz Coursen and Gayle Williams talking about the 5 secrets of a wow visitor experience. They are in a very popular chapter in Sarasota, Florida, and we've got lots of good stuff to share. So on the next slide, you will see a quote from Maya Angelou. This has kind of been around BNI for a long time, but it's an important one. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that is the key to a successful visitor experience, that they feel like they're part of the chapter, they feel like they're engaged, they're meeting people and starting the process of building relationships even before they fill out an application, right? So I'm going to turn it over to Liz and Gayle, and maybe the two of you can do each other's bios. How about that?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, well, I'm happy to present Liz Coursen, who is the president of BNI Referral Champions, and I couldn't be happier to serve with anyone else. She is an award-winning editor, publisher, professional speaker, and we're both here in Sarasota, Florida. She's author of 14 books so far. I know she has like at least 1 or 2 a year coming out. And I know for a fact that she has visited in person BNI chapters all over the States, Switzerland, Italy, and India, where we both traveled on business.
That was very exciting. And it's my honor to introduce Gayle Williams, who's the vice president of Referral Champions. Gayle has serious chops, and I'm so thrilled that she is my VP. She is a 30-year marketing professional. She is a professional flutist. And she founded her digital marketing agency, Vision PRM, in 2008. And she has presented material at WordPress conferences all over the country. So we make a very good team. We have complementary skills, and we're thrilled to be part of Referral Champions.
Okay.
All right. So you ready, Liz, to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of our success is that we are engaging our visitors way before they get to the meeting. And typically speaking, we're going to reach out and touch them at least once before the meeting personally, and they'll get a phone call from an appropriate person. And typically what we do is we figure out who that appropriate person is. Is it a member of the visitor host committee? Is it me? Is it Gayle? It just seems like from what that person, we do a little research from what that person is and what he or she does, we figure out who the best person is to reach out and make an initial connection with the person. And I feel like that's always nice because we get a little bit better grasp of that person's professional priorities. And I think that's been very, very helpful for us, is to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, by the way, to do more than just pre-registering your visitors. And I think that's what you were talking about, Liz.
Yes, it is.
So let's talk about this one. This is, by the way, this blew me away, the secret, because I never see this happen. And I think it's a great, great practice.
Well, typically speaking, if you're the president and if you get a phone call from the president of an organization welcoming you and asking questions and engaging with you, I think it really means a lot to people. And it's something I think is very important. Of course, I'm curious as president, who is this person? What does he or she do? And I'm already trying to establish whether this person would be a good fit for my chapter.
I will tell you, if I have been on the fence about visiting, as happens many times, people are like, do I want to go? It's raining out today or whatever. If I got a call from the president a day or two before, I'm showing up. It's different. All due respect to our wonderful visitor hosts, a president by title is going to command more attention. And if they say, I look forward to meeting you on whatever day your chapter meets, more than likely, I'm going to make it a point to show up.
Yeah. And all the more reason for visitors to be pre-registered, because otherwise we don't know.
So it's essential. It's essential, I feel like, for the best visitor experience for our members to make sure that their visitors are properly registered so that we can do our due diligence up front. And of course, we're going to give someone a very positive experience if he or she just shows up. And that's okay too. That's all right. We can wing it with the best of them, but boy, it is nice to have those pre-registrations in hand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And one of the things that we do is we have multiple touches in terms of our chapter communicating with our members. So one of the first things that we do is we are going to send out a reminder about the meeting to the visitor, because Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock comes very fast, especially when you're really busy. So an email reminder goes out to the visitors, and that's generally from the visitor hosts themselves after I've made a phone call.
And this is in addition to what comes from BNI Connect, because they send out a reminder as well.
Absolutely.
This is a more personal touch.
We want the personal touches ourselves.
Agreed.
And one of the things too that we try to do is we try to, if we can, without being super intrusive, but most people have their smiling faces on multiple platforms. We try to figure out what that person looks like. And as the person is approaching our entrance, I've usually got someone out there waiting and smiling and saying, "Hey, Cindy, it's great that you're here," and whomever. And that also sets a good tone and makes a really good first impression. If you know what the person looks like, you can greet them by name before they even get into the room.
Can I add?
Yes.
I know that I'm not part of the visitor host team, but every member is a visitor host. And just by nature of what I do, I always look up our visitors online. I look at their social media. I look at their business website. I really absorb as much as I can about that person. And that has really helped, because particularly when I see that we have mutual connections and things, I can greet them up front and say, "Hey, I think you and I both know so-and-so." Again, a way to create that connection and sense of community right off the bat.
Absolutely.
Right. Corinne says she does the same thing in her chapter. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Now you can
This
advance
is
the
definitely
slide.
best
There's a little
practice.
photo under there.
Okay, next. Yeah, here we go.
Oh,
Look,
Yeah,
there's
so
somebody we all know and
right.
love.
Yes, old
But
photo. It's a testimony to keeping your headshots current.
Yeah. I do love, though,
Thank you,
that
Steve.
I can still figure out that it's you, Liz. But
I know.
I think that this is just one way for members to know in advance who someone looks like. So when they walk through the door, they're not even a visitor host. They're like, "Oh, look, there's Liz. I want to meet her."
Absolutely.
Great idea.
and I will confess, there are times when it's a member or a visitor that's potentially in my power team and I find them on LinkedIn. I will send them a LinkedIn connection request saying,
Yes.
"So excited to see that you're registered to visit my BNI chapter. I look forward to meeting you. Let's connect here too."
Yeah, that's a good point. So before they even walk in the room, you've already made a connection with them.
Yeah, we're trying to.
All right.
So we do pre-register visitors, and when people are pre-registered, we have a sign-in sheet that's being filled out by the visitor host team, so that when someone gets there, we have the sign-in sheet partially filled out with all the information we can fill out to expedite and streamline the sign-in process. So we've already started that, and we are prepared. And we also have name tags prepared for the visitors. So these are all pre-meeting things. And people come in and they say, "Gosh, you all are looking forward to seeing me. You're prepared to see me. And there's my name. It's spelled correctly. This is exciting. I am welcome here." That's the main thing.
Let's see. Oh, well, this is another one.
Well, and
Oh,
certainly, yeah,
Did
certainly
we do
I
this
do
one
call
already?
people. I might not call
It
them
bears
that
repeating.
much.
Calls them again.
All right, let's advance to the next one.
This is emphasizing the importance of the president call. Go ahead.
That
Well,
is true.
I'll add, here's a secret. If we've looked them up on social media and we know what they look like, we've got their name tag there. I have actually, this happened to me the other day. Someone walked in and I went, "Hi, you must be Chris." And that was like they had walked in the door. But
Yeah.
"Hey, Chris, so nice to meet you. Come on in." It was fun because he looked at me like, "What?"
And now's your chance to say, "Yeah, I hold the psychic's seat."
Yes.
See?
We once had a psychic in our chapter.
Did you?
I think we were one of the very few chapters in the world
Nice.
with a psychic. She was scary too. She was on
She
point
was
a lot.
right on point.
I bet.
It was scary. Anyway, so we'll go on.
All right. Next.
Okay, and then what I also do is I make sure that the entire chapter knows who the visitors will be and their contact information and their profession. So we send out at least one email a week. Typically, for sure email is the Monday email because we meet on Tuesday. And I'll certainly give a recap of last week's meeting. I will recognize the people who won the various things that we give awards for. But also the main thing too is here are our visitors. Get ready. Here's the list of the visitors. And I want everyone to be aware that these visitors hopefully and probably will be in the room the next day. And it's fresh in everyone's mind.
Whoop, secret.
Secret.
Secret coming.
Okay. So it turns out that I send 3 emails. After I look at who the visitor is, what that person does, I send an email out to the entire chapter. But I'm also, of course, emailing the visitor host team with kind of insight into the person that maybe the larger chapter doesn't need to know, but it will help the visitor hosts, especially as a point of first contact in the room. It will help them give the visitor a wow experience. But I think what I really do that I think is best practices is I make sure that we have told potential referral partners that this person is going to be in the room the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And if, for example, we have a brand new member who does pool remodeling and new pool installation. Obviously, she's going to want to know our electrician, our plumber, our landscaper. And so those three people will know that she's going to be in the room. They'll know what her name is, and they'll hopefully go right to her and start talking business and how exciting the potential of BNI and a BNI membership is.
Right.
Now, Liz, I know it sounds like 3 emails is a lot to send, but it really isn't when it's a quick email, right? You don't need a big, long explanation if everybody's getting the main email. You just need a little directive to each person that you're sending out in the other 2.
Absolutely. And everyone knows that everyone's duty is to make sure that we are all providing that visitor with the contacts and the connections that will make that person feel welcome in our chapter.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think we got another.
Sorry, so now during the meeting.
Yes,
that's right.
And so during the meeting, I'm hoping that our potential referral partners are going to take it upon themselves to not only show up early, a little earlier perhaps than they might, because there is this potential referral partner in the room, but we definitely want to make a beeline right to the referral partners with the visitor and introduce the visitor to the potential referral partners immediately upon getting into the room.
And I believe we have a pretty strong culture where someone will stay with that visitor and shepherd them around to meet these folks. And it doesn't have to be the visitor host. It might be one of those potential referral partners. And if by chance someone is left by themselves at the coffee table or whatnot, and these things happen, we have seen directly a member will notice it and walk right over there, and no one is left alone. So that's a really important point.
Absolutely.
And also we help them find their seat, because our chapter is growing and seats are at a premium.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to get them to a good seat.
Yes.
So that they have the best experience during the meeting.
And they're comfortable, they put their stuff down, and then they go out and open network. So yes, absolutely. And one of the things that we were tasked to do as far as our visitor hosts is I want them to come right over to me with the visitor and tap me on the shoulder, interrupt what I'm doing, and introduce the visitor to me, because I want to smile at the person. I want to shake his or her hand and reestablish that connection that's been made from my phone call and my email, my follow-up email. But I think it's a kind of a, when someone has the status to come over and interrupt the president, and the president turns around from whatever he or she's doing and smiles and looks excited, shakes that person's hand, it's really a powerful signal that about the importance of members and vis-a-vis the chapter leadership. So I want to be interrupted. I want my members to bring over a visitor and introduce that person to me.
Okay,
Absolutely. That's great.
all right. Let's see, what else do we do?
Oh, this is very important, and I can't stress this enough. And our visitor hosts are really so good about this. It's of paramount importance. If you do nothing else, you've got to make sure that everyone who is going to be introducing the visitor pronounces that person's first and last name properly. No first name only, no guessing, no embarrassed giggling. You got to nail it. You got to nail it the first time out, which means that lots of times at our visitor host table, I've asked my visitors to keep asking the visitor to repeat his or her name, and that visitor host is writing down the phonetic spelling, because we've got 2 times the visitors are introduced. A visitor host team member introduces all the visitors, guests, and subs, and then I work in that person's introduction, and I've got to know how to pronounce first and last name, because if you can do that, that's huge. It's huge. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very important.
particularly huge for someone with a name that's not as common.
Right. I mean, I can pronounce Williams all day long, but polysyllabic names from, they're just challenging, and we want to respect everyone and pronounce his or her name accurately.
Yeah. Is there
Yeah,
something on the bottom
my
of this
last
one?
name has 3 vowels in it, but people like to add a 4th every so often. It just happens.
Really, how did they do it?
Say
How do they do it?
Tenuzio. And I'm like, there's no
Tenuzio.
I before the O. Don't do that.
Ah.
So when people pronounce it correctly, I'm like, I like that. You're a good person.
Yes.
I'm joining your chapter.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
It's very important. And then during the meeting, we have set up the visitors so that they will leave the room right before our announcements. And I've made sure that someone has told the visitor that there will come a moment when not only am I going to ask that person what impressed him or her most about our meeting, I'm going to invite that person to join the visitor hosts and leave the room to answer any questions that they may have. So we have the composition of the people who leave the room with the visitor can change a little bit, but for the most part, it's our 2 visitor host coordinators who are tasked with taking the visitor out and talking to them about BNI and the joys of BNI membership. It just depends. Yeah. And then we're going to figure out, based on that person's response, what should our follow-up look like? What should we do to keep contact with that person? I've got to say that when I attended my first meeting, after being invited 4 times by the same friend,
Wow.
by the first time I walked into a BNI meeting, within 2 minutes, I said, where do I sign up? Because it was so obvious the manifold benefits of being a BNI member. No one had to talk to me. And I realize that's not exactly everybody's experience, but hey, that's what happened to me. So you try to tailor your follow-up process to the response of the visitor. And I believe we're doing very well. What are our stats right now, Gayle? Haven't we, is it triple?
Oh, our conversion
Our
rate?
conversion rate.
Oh, well, we were not doing too well. Well, like we go through periods.
There's never been a
went
chapter that's been on a high straight through for year after year.
Oh, yes, and then we had a slump, and that's why we knew we really needed to do something about this. And so we were at a 10.17 conversion rate. Ouch. But we are now at a 30% conversion rate.
Wow.
And I think when we get our next month's traffic lights, it's going to be up quite a few points from that too.
Yeah, we have a big induction ceremony coming up on Tuesday. We've got 3 brand new members.
4
brand new members, excuse me,
Wow.
and a renewing member, which I think is a testimony to the strength of our chapter and our chapter environment, our chapter culture.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys, this is a little off the path, but when you do have a renewing member, do you do anything special for them or announce them or talk about?
They get incorporated into the ceremony, and
They're inducted again.
Inducted
That's
again.
great.
And then there's conversation about how long have you been a member, who invited you, things like that, that demonstrate to all the other members the commitment and the duration of the commitment.
Right. And it's a big deal
Right.
for the visitors who are in the room saying, oh, this person's already had at least a year and they're coming back for more.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But when you can announce, like we can announce 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. And then if you look at people who have been in other chapters, we've had people who were
15, 20.
15, 20.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that is a huge testimony.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah. What's next?
Oh,
Oh, we're not ready for the thank you.
Well, back up a little bit. First off,
I
because I have a point on this, and that is, Liz, you mentioned the importance of doing a follow-up depending on where they stand after the orientation. Because some people are like, I'm ready to go. Others are like,
Yep.
I just need to check in, with my wife or my boss or whatever. And others are like, I'm not sure, I'm kind of on the fence. And choosing the right person to follow up with them can make a big difference and really kind of pushing that along.
well, in fact, this morning we have a new member who owns a really specialty, wonderful car repair business. And we had a visitor a couple, 3 weeks ago who installs auto glass. Well, what a dandy referral partner the two of them would be. So this morning I contacted our automotive repair guy and said, would you mind following up with the automotive glass guy, because the two of you would be dandy referral partners. So you can certainly task members, specific members, particularly referral partners, with following up on guests and saying, this is my experience. I think you do really well here, and I'd love to work with you. And it just depends on what the visitor does and who you have in your chapter, who you feel like would make the best connection.
right.
Yeah.
If we have time, I would like to tell a little bit of a story.
Tell.
I would like to tell you how the sausage was made. In
Oh,
fact,
oh my gosh.
when every year when the new leadership team is selected, you've got 2 or 3 months to get into gear and start making your plans. So during the summer into September, the 3 of us, it's the 2 of us plus our secretary treasurer Carrie Starr Rummery, started meeting, and we were talking about what can we do, what are some of the initiatives we would like to bring forward for our chapter. And one of the biggest ones was, we have got to do something about our visitor host coordination and the visitor experience. So Liz Coursen sat down and she wrote another book. No, no,
Lord.
but it was several pages. It was her going into her mind thinking, what do I want the visitor to experience? And she went from the very moment they walked in the door, what that touch needed to be, actually. And then she drafted what happened before the meeting, when they walked in the door, during the meeting, and everything that we're talking about today, she just drafted in basically a standard operating procedures, a manual. And she shared it with everyone. And I think everyone about fell off their chairs because it was a lot to digest all at once. However, I think that it has been brilliant that and I should say it even had room diagrams. and this is where you take them here,
Wow.
here, make sure you point out the bathrooms, show them the coffee. It was most complete. And then she started meeting with the visitor coordinators. We have 2 sharing. The 3 of them talked through what works, what's going to work, what's not. And then they started having meetings with the entire visitor host team. And they still do, like if they're there early enough, they have a quick standing meeting before the visitors start coming in. And I think that type of leadership and alignment for the procedures and the goals was really brilliant. And I just want to say, I have been amazed watching the process happen. And of course, we've got the statistics that show that it really works. So, yes.
I definitely.
Good job, Liz.
Thank you, Gayle. Thank you.
But
But
see,
it
these
can
are
be
these
done.
little extra things that people do, though, to show their commitment to the chapter. That's like leadership from the top down. So when the president does something like that, the VP is going to follow suit, and everyone is just going to work a little bit harder to make the chapter its most successful.
And let me just add one thing, if I may, Steve. I think for me, in terms of my leadership journey, it was just an accident almost that I just for one meeting, I showed up early, and I saw all the work that went into the meeting and the setup for the meeting, and I'd been hitherto oblivious to all the work that goes in. I was at the iceberg level, and I didn't realize what was under the surface of the water. And that one time I thought to myself, I'm going to start to show up early. I am going to try to encourage other people to be there. I mean, when I say early, I mean right at 7. I want people at the doors as the door opens right at 7. And it's amazing how that 15 minutes, 20 minutes of just being there is so profound for everyone's experience. Just being there as soon as the doors open and get started and get going.
And I haven't measured this. I don't know how I can measure it unless I sit there with a tally sheet, but I perceive that we have a larger number of members showing up at 7 a.m.
I agree.
And they're there, and the room is a buzz. By 7:05, the room is just hopping.
Yeah.
And that has not been my experience when I visited some chapters and gotten there early.
Yeah.
And I think it makes a big difference.
And plus, I can say that we have a big BNI banner that's at the front door, one of those ones that are probably about 6 or 7 feet tall. And the visitor hosts bring that in. And also when we get inside the doors, we have a tablecloth and a BNI, what would you call that? A BNI, a runner. And it says BNI, so that I think the whole atmosphere looks very professional. We definitely are emphasizing name badges, things like that, so that people can be identified as BNI members. And I think that also helps with the camaraderie in the room too.
Yeah,
no question about that. I do love when I see like the signage. Some chapters have nothing. And it's just like you're in a room and like, who are these people? But if I see a banner, or some people have those table runners, or anything that's showing who you are, and maybe a sign at the visitor host table that says, in the past year our chapter has passed X amount of dollars. That's a good thing to do as well. If you've got some sort of a screen to show it on, that's cool too. But I think just communicating that the chapter is successful the minute you walk through the door, and then combine that with the kind of the buzz that happens in the room. And by the way, I know that we're talking about in-person chapters today because Liz and Gayle are from an in-person chapter, but in Q&A, and we've got some Q&A coming up, we'll talk about virtual as well and how we can make that work as well.
May I say one last thing, please, Steve?
Sure, yeah.
Because you've already given me permission, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. If a BNI member is contemplating leadership, may I suggest, and I know Gayle will back me up here, to consider joining also Toastmasters International. Of all the steps that you can take as an aspiring leader, Toastmasters will help you communicate much more effectively, and Toastmasters will help you run a meeting by an agenda. That is one of the most powerful tools that Toastmasters will give you. And there are thousands of Toastmasters clubs all over the states. And let me encourage you, if you really aspire to leadership in BNI and out of BNI, Toastmasters will be a very valuable tool in your tool set.
I'm just curious, you can just jump in the chat and tell us if you've ever been to Toastmasters, or if you've been in for a number of years, let us know how long you've been in.
Yeah. To that point, I'd like to say that because of her years in Toastmasters, and I'm also a Toastmaster, Liz is able to run a very tight meeting in that it's on point, it's on time, and she does it with a finesse an ability that is very polished. And visitors have pointed that out. That's been in our reviews. They say, wow, this is, I never lost the attention. You keep the pace. And that is very important.
Yeah,
Part of the experience.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Toastmasters.
it's great for personal development, but also in your business when you're presenting in front of other clients or in your chapter. Oh,
Absolutely.
because Gailey's been in BNI for 16 years. Wow, fantastic.
That's great.
Yay.
Yeah. So I think what we've learned today is take a look at your current experience with your visitors and your visitor hosts and how everything works. And then find out if some of these little secrets can help you out and tweak the way that you're running your meeting before, during, and after to make sure that your visitors are really getting that experience where they feel like that you cared about them being there and that you wanted them to be there. That is the biggest way to up your conversion rate. And we say conversion rate, what we mean is people who visit as opposed to people come and fill out an application, or people who fill out an application and then eventually become members.
Yeah.
All right, so that is the end of the presentation, but we've got some Q&A. Ready, Liz and Gayle?
Go.
Here they come. Here they come. I'm going to skip the ones that involve virtual for now because you guys aren't in a virtual chapter. But let's start with this. Oh gosh, all right, I know this one. What chapter officers have access to seeing visitor registrations in BNI Connect? That's good BNI trivia. It's not just the visitor host team, but the president,
the VP,
and the secretary treasurer.
Secretary treasurer.
Yeah,
course,
so the top three always have access, but also, of course, the visitor host team. Those are the ones who can always see who's registered. And if you have an event coming up, like a visitor day or something like that, you may want to say, I only see X amount of pre-registrations, but I heard that we had more than that. So let's get everyone pre-registered. Very important. Okay, so next question.
I have a question for the.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
It's always a struggle to make sure that visitors, not visitors, that members understand how to register their visitors. And it's so easy on BNI Connect, but does anyone have any tips on how to keep reminding visitors how to do it, or
that they should do it?
Yeah, that they should do it.
Yeah, kind of guilty on that.
You can put that right into the chat for your answer. We'll keep an eye on that while that person is writing. I will ask this question. How big is your visitor host team?
Well, it's the entire chapter. It's the entire chapter, but we've got 2 coordinators, and then I believe we've got about 7 people who are listed as visitor hosts. Some do more than others.
I think we ought to also mention they originally started as visitor host team assignments, but then we ended up having a separate committee called the Hospitality Committee, and they helped us make sure that all the coffee and bagels and yogurt and everything's set out. But that's another group of members that are there right at 7 and right there doing it. And it's very important for the visitors to have that coffee when they walk in.
Right.
Coffee, carbs, and sugar.
Okay, here's one that I think that some, how should I describe it, less confident visitor hosts might run into, and that is, how would you address visitors' concerns about cost of membership, attendance, and being able to provide referrals on a regular basis?
Well, I'll talk about the cost. I usually first I look at we can talk about the thank you for closed business that our chapter brings in and the average per capita. So we've been at about 95,000 per seat is the average thank you for closed business. Now, obviously, the hairdresser is probably not bringing in the
Right.
same amount as the pool contractor or
Mhm.
the roofing guy. Oh, roofing guy.
Roofing guy.
Proven guys do well.
They do. However, given the
And
nature
roofing
of their
women too.
business, they bring in quite a lot.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a no-brainer when you say, okay, so you can bring in $60,000 worth of business from your, like the average, or the average is 95. I mentioned mine, and then when you show the membership cost next to that,
Mhm.
it's a totally different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I
That's-
think that's a smart way to look at it, is just kind of say, how much do you want to make in BNI? If it's, $700 or $800, you're not doing it right? That's not
No.
why you come to BNI. You want to make a significantly larger amount than what your initial investment is in BNI.
And that's one of the things that I say is, what is the value of one client? What is the value? A pool cleaner obviously seems to be like a low number, but that pool is going to be needing to be cleaned all year long. So what is the value of one client? What's your
1 year
exactly,
lifetime?
what is your break even? How many clients do you have to have from BNI to break even? And usually it's a very low number. And once people say to themselves, gosh, I only need 3 clients just from BNI in the entire year, and I am in the black. And that to me is usually, that's where you really see the gears start to shift. And I usually say, hey, we've got all these people in this room. We need your services. We know people who need your services. How many clients do you think you can get from personal relationships through BNI? And usually the number swamps the cost.
Yeah. As opposed addressing attendance, to me, that's an easy one. To say, well, let's say over the course of a 6-month period, you can miss 3 meetings and you can send 3 substitutes as well. But if you did all of that, you'd be missing 25% of your meetings. That is a lot of time away from not getting referral opportunities and talking about your business. So it seems like more than a fair and flexible policy. And I think most people would definitely agree with that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And yes, and Howard says investment, not cost. Good job, Howard.
Yes.
Howard's
Thank you,
gonna be
Howard.
what I assume. And providing referrals on a regular basis. You know what I always say to people that I meet in BNI? Don't feel like on day 1 you need to bring 10 referrals. I mean, if you've got them, that's fantastic. But the most important thing is to get to know everybody in the chapter. So for me, you start in the chapter, 1-to-1s are your priority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we covered all of those. All right, there you go. Thank you, Calvin, for a great question. All right, next up. All right, let's see. Oh, where do we order the banners? Do you know where you got
The
yours?
brand store. There's a BNI
Okay,
brand
the BNI store, yeah.
store.
I would just reach out to, because we have some people who are part of the BNI core regions, and we've got some from the franchises. So I would just reach out to whoever your chapter success coach or your director is, and they'll point you to the right place.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see. What are the major points of expectation the visitor host should discuss with visitors when they step out of the meeting for Q&A to set expectations of membership? We covered 3 of them just now in the previous question. Right, investment, attendance.
Just the idea of the power of one.
Yeah. And also I think a lot of times small business people are a little bit on the isolated side, and we don't get a lot of opportunity to interact with our peers, fellow business owners. And that's one of the things that I find so wonderful about BNI is I feel like the people in the room are experiencing the same challenges I am, and we're working for the same goals. And the opportunity to interact with fellow business owners, I think, is huge, because when you are a solo entrepreneur or just an entrepreneur with a small company, it's a lot of times it's just you, and here you now have this network. And I think that's really wonderful. It's a big benefit.
Right. Oh, what time does your meeting start?
7.
You're at 7. Okay, great.
AM.
Yes, AM. Yes. In Massachusetts, the majority of our chapters are 7 a.m. There's like maybe 4 or 5 that don't meet at that time. Because if a meeting starts at 7 and it's over by 8:30, you have time to get to your office by 9 and start your day. And so,
Well,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
may go a
Steve,
little bit longer.
let me clarify that our meeting technically starts at 7:45. So
Okay.
people are so eager that they are showing up at
7:30.
7. Well, yeah, I guess, I mean, it depends. I hit the gavel at 8:45, and then we go
So
till 9.
7:45 is when you start.
Yes,
Okay, and you go till 9. Okay.
But you're marked late if you come after 7:30.
that's right.
So
Right, and that's
the
an
official
important thing.
start time is 7:30.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you have people
Yeah.
there for open networking.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay. Next, let's see. What are some of the questions you go over with the visitors? Oh, we already talked about that one. All right. So that's a done one. Okay. Oh, most visitors register themselves. Should we take that over as visitor hosts?
No, that's okay.
I love
I
when
think
visitors
that
register themselves.
if they take the initiative and register themselves, that's wonderful. But
Mhm.
too often they're saying to their friend that invited them, sure, I'll come. And what happens to me is I'll go ahead and register them, even though I've sent them an invitation. If they're not going to register themselves, I will register them.
Right. Right. Okay, again, someone asked where to find the runners or any other items for the room. Reach out to your director or chapter success coach and they will point you to the right place. Okay. Oh, someone asked, will any part of the manual that Liz wrote be available?
Liz did
See
not
what
write a
happens, Gayle,
manual.
when you suggest something?
Oh, Gayle. Oh,
I have a copy of it.
no, I obviously, this is just,
The answer
this
is not
was
at this
just
time, but perhaps
exactly.
in the future. Yep.
We can clean it up.
Yep.
I mean,
Okay.
it's not formatted or anything like that, but I think that
It was pretty thorough, I have to admit. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about virtual. Even though you're not virtual anymore, you certainly were during the pandemic.
Mhm,
And
absolutely.
so
And
what's
we
the difference in the application process between a live meeting and a virtual meeting?
well, the application process, I don't think that is any different because it's an online application now.
Just doing
So
a
it's
breakout
really,
room with the visitor?
yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a QR code and it can be up on the screen. They can take a picture and it goes straight to the proper application page for
Nice.
our chapter. And then they proceed.
So
And then the membership team takes
Yeah.
over.
right. So if you're in a Zoom meeting, how did you welcome new visitors and give them a good meeting experience? Do you do anything different before the meeting starts?
We had a separate breakout room for visitors
Mhm.
and then sent people into it.
Yeah, right.
We,
As they came in.
right. So I know I went into the breakout room when I had brought a visitor and I wanted to go in and say hello before they came into the full meeting.
Mhm.
And also we would invite a referral partner,
Absolutely.
And I don't know if the president ever ducked in. Probably not, because the president has so much to do with virtual.
But there
Yeah.
can still be all those pre-meeting touches, all the contacts, all the emails that you feel are appropriate given that person's profession. And those can certainly be done virtually as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that it's just figuring out how to do it. I think it can work really well, but all of those things that Liz and Gayle talked about on getting ready for the meeting so that when that person shows up, no matter whether it's in person or online, they feel like they're part of the group already. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
are there reports we can run in BNI Connect regarding visitors that have registered to visit? Not sure anyone has been looking at these in this person's chapter.
Oh.
There is a
Well,
report.
yes.
Yeah. There is a report, and it is called the Visitor Registration Report. So you would just go
Mhm.
into reports and chapter, and you would see that.
It's under chapter operations.
Mhm.
The visitor
Oh,
portal
right,
is
it's not a
under
report. You're
chapter
right. It's
operations.
Right. Chapter operations. I mean, operations chapter. That's how it goes.
Right, yeah.
Okay, it's been a while since I've had to do any of that stuff in chapters. I'm a little rusty. Michelle's asking, can we get a copy of this PowerPoint to share? You both okay with us releasing this to everybody?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Of
great.
course, sure.
There we go. And let's see. Okay. Can you elaborate on the 3 emails that you send going to visit host team referral partners an entire chapter?
Okay, well, the entire chapter's email goes out on Monday, the day before our meeting. And we all know that people register very late. So I try to hold so that the whole chapter knows by about noon on Monday who we expect in the room, because I'll send out that chapter-wide email right around lunchtime. But then as I'm watching and hoping more people dribble in, which is the practice, people registering very late, then I start to target the people who have registered, but I'm trying to figure out who those referral partners, those best referral partners would be. And I'm going to make sure that all those referral partners are aware of the potential visitors in the room the next day, what that person does, and who are good referral partners. So those go out to targeted people who might be good referral partners. And then the visitor hosts also get a separate email with a little bit more meat on the bones of the visitors and who they are and what kind of profession, and a little bit of research that we've done. So the visitor hosts are empowered with this knowledge about the insight into the visitor, each individual visitor. So those are the 3 that we send out.
Great.
It seems like people are much more prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? Because we really kind of tailor these meetings to our visitors, because no matter how you look at it, yes, you love everyone in your group. They're all wonderful people and you get along with them well, and they're bringing you referrals, all good stuff. But visitors always like new blood, new energy into the chapter. When they become members, that whole induction ceremony is so powerful. And it really does change the way that we look at all these new people that we're bringing in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to, let's see. Someone asked if we were going to post this video today. Yes, it will be up by 5 p.m. I just put the link into the chat. So there we go. And that is the end of our presentation. So thank you all for being on today. But Gayle, if you could skip to the final slide here.
There.
So we talked all about what happens when the visitor shows up, but how do you get the visitor in the room? That is next week's talk. And I have our very own Massachusetts Managing Director, Matthew Biggins, is joining us to talk about how to invite without inviting. You know, sometimes your pitch is the most important thing, and sometimes it's a little too over the top and a little too, depending on your chapter, you might be a little too eager to bring people in, and it might feel like too much of a sales pitch. So Matthew's going to give us some really great ideas on how to invite in a way that's going to get people to actually show up. So don't miss that one. You've got the email already in your inbox, and we'll send out another one next week, of course, to register for that. All right, Liz and Gayle, that was fun. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You'll continue to do great in your chapter. Much success to you both. And
we'll see you in Miami.
There you go. Those of you who are attending, you don't want to miss Liz and Gayle at the BNI convention.
Yeah, the Liz and Gayle show. We'll be in the hotel bar. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Give yourselves a CEU for being on today, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks again.